RV experts share their lifestyle, experience, and advice. I am your host, Leah Zahner, and this week our panelists are here to share fun family activities and entertainment ideas for your next RV trip. Make sure to join us next Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time for our final panel discussion. And of course, if you missed any of our previous discussions, you can view the entire series of our panels on RVRepairClub.com. We'll soon be joined by our panelists, and they are Dustin Schroeder of Fulltime Families, Erin and Travis of Our Lively Tribe, and Joel Holland of Harvest Hosts. For everyone viewing right now, please feel free, if you have any questions at all throughout this entire panel, put them in the comment box so that I can start to filter those in when we get to our Q&A portion of our panel. If you are watching directly on RVRepairClub.com, you can leave your comments in the red chat box below the video. And before I bring our panelists in, all three of their brands, plus RV Repair Club, have come together and collaborated on a free activity sheet bundle that you can bring on your next road trip. The bundle includes an RV cookbook, camping meal planning sheets, coloring pages, crossword puzzles, an RV camping guide, and tips for your RV. In order to download this bundle, you can click the banner underneath the video player or the link in the description. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And for any viewers that didn't catch the previous panel discussions that we've had, I'm going to ask each of our panelists just to give a quick introduction of themselves and their brand. And today we're going to start with Dustin Schroeder, Fulltime Families. Welcome, Dustin. Hello.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite here. And Dustin Schroeder, me and my wife, Nicole, we own Fulltime Families, which is travel community with families that live full time in their RV, traveling the country. We do a lot of rally and events around the country to really, our purpose is to connect families with other families that live on the road.
All right, well, welcome, Dustin. Next, we're gonna move to Erin and Travis of Our Lively Tribe. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I'm Travis.
And I'm Erin, and we are Our Lively Tribe. We started traveling in a travel trailer in 2017, and now we renovate travel trailers for families to full-time in. So that's what we do.
All right. Our final panelist is Joel Holland. He is here with Harvest Hosts. Hi, Joel.
Hey, how you doing, Leah? Thanks for having me. My wife and I own Harvest Hosts, which is a membership club for RVers that allows our members to stay at over 1,400 really unique locations, wineries, breweries, distilleries, golf courses, farms, museums, and kind of unique attractions all over the country and in Canada, and even a few down in Mexico. And she's a veterinarian, so she can't be here today. She's got a real job that I get to play on the computer.
Well, welcome to all three sets of our panelists. This is the part where I'm going to start to ask some pre-submitted questions to our panelists. But if you have any questions of your own, just a reminder, pop those into the chat box. If they are relevant to the discussion, I'm going to try to slide them in as we go. Otherwise, when we get through all of the pre-submitted questions, we'll be getting to your questions through as many as possible in the hour that we have today. So we're going to hop right in with our very first question. What does a typical day look like for you and your family while traveling or living in your RV? And I'm going to send this one to Erin and Travis first.
So we have 4 boys. They range from ages 12 to 1. And what we really found when we moved into our RV was that, and because we are self-employed, was that a clock kind of didn't matter. We really found our own schedule and our own flow. Our kids go to bed probably later than most kids because they don't have to get up and rush out the door. And they get up a little later and go to bed later. So I think that you kind of find your own flow and your own schedule when you live in an RV, especially when you're on the road traveling. A typical day would look like us, kind of slowly starting our morning, actually eating breakfast around 9, dressed, kind of starting our day, and then deciding if we're traveling, then we decide what we want to go do that day. If there's a national park or a monument that we can go see, we'll go and adventure and get out and hike. And yeah, do you have anything?
No.
That's kind of how it looks. You really tend to find your own schedule. And that's hard not to feel guilty about that in the beginning, that you're not on like a normal schedule that everyone expects. But if you're homeschooling and you're self-employed, then you kind of really get to make your own schedule. And yeah, it's interesting.
All right, I'm going to send this over to Joel. What does a typical day look like for you?
So we don't have kids yet. So I imagine it'll change, but we do travel with 2 ferrets and 2 cats. So it usually, like, we also don't set alarm clocks, but the cats especially like to let you know when it's time to eat breakfast. So we'll wake up to a cat like pawing your face for food, get up. We both have different routines. Mine is like make a couple coffees, sit at the computer, and I'll try to get like my most productive work done the first couple hours of the day. And so if it's a travel day, I'll usually work until the campground calls and tells me I'm beyond checkout. Or if we're at a Harvest Host location, I know it's time to just, get moving. And then when we get to our campsite that evening, set up, usually catch up on email, make sure there was nothing important that I missed. And then we'll either go for an evening hike, play a game, and probably settle in with like a movie or a show. And then we try to make sure that we are not always traveling. Like a mistake we made when we first started was we were constantly on the move. And it's really easy to just get like, you fall behind on everything when you're always traveling. So now we try to at least every few days spend a couple days at one place so we can have a more, normal routine.
All right, Dustin, let's hear from you. What a typical day looks like for you and your family.
So for us, I'm the only morning person in our family, not like 5 a.m. morning, but like 7 a.m. morning. And so I usually will wake up, I'll usually make a cup of coffee, and then I will head outside. So I won't be in the RV. I'll usually either make phone calls for work, or I try to do work stuff. Otherwise, I'll usually just go for a walk and listen to a podcast with my coffee. My family usually wakes up, I don't know, 10, 11. My wife is up before then, but my kids are 10, 11. And my kids are a little bit older. So my youngest and my oldest both have summer birthdays. One will be 12, one will be 18, and then my daughter's 15. So they're pretty self-sufficient on their school. We'll have to nudge them to get started, but they do a lot of their homeschooling pretty much independently, unless they need help with something. My wife will usually in the morning just kind of relax and have her morning, afternoon kind of to herself, and then she'll do some work, get on her computer. And evenings we try to preserve for friends, because we're usually hanging out with our friends in their RVs. So we oftentimes will eat lunch or dinner or have a fire with whoever we're traveling with. So, and I agree with Joel that we made that same mistake. At the beginning, it was always move, 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 and you definitely fall behind. Now we try to stay for 3 to 7 days at least whenever we stop.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is, what are some of your favorite activities to do as part of your RV lifestyle that keep you and your family entertained? And we'll start with Joel this time. Favorite activities?
Well, I'll start again with a mistake we made at first, which was I'm really into technology and gadgets. And so I was really pumped to put a satellite TV dish on top of our RV. And I just thought it was so cool. We could be in the middle of nowhere and be watching TV. And then what I found was we were just always watching TV, which is TV can be nice and fun, but we were just doing it too much. And it was like every evening revolved around it, and it was total waste. And so we actually got rid of the satellite TV, so we can still stream movies and stuff off our phones when we want, but we replaced it with activities like board games. And so we love like getting to a campground and pulling out, open a bottle of wine, put out the Scrabble, Scrabble board, or Boggle. It's a really fun, quick game. But yeah, something about playing games, making a fire, sitting around the fire, like the actual, like more traditional camping activities, instead of just like, being a couch potato.
All right, Erin and Travis, how about you? Some favorite activities?
Man, it's been a while since we were traveling full time. But while we were traveling, it was definitely going out and seeing what was around us that day. national parks were huge. And we made it a point to wherever we were, we would go on adventure, go on hikes, go see the monuments, like she said, the ruins that were close by. That's really what we focused on while we were traveling, was just seeing everything.
Yeah, really getting out and exploring whatever new area you're in. Going on Facebook groups and you disappeared. Going on Facebook groups and stuff, and really asking, like, okay, we're in this town today. Like, we had spent some time in Cottonwood, Arizona. And from there, we went to Sedona, we went to Jerome, we went up to Williams. There was so much to see within that week that we were there. And so really just immersing yourself in that area is what we really like to do.
Okay, Dustin, finish us off for this question. Some favorite activities.
So we actually like to do a lot of the parks and the hiking, the national parks, the national monuments. We like to explore big cities too. So we'll go to maybe Chicago or Boston, and anywhere we go, we try to do some type of educational thing. So up in New England, Boston, it's a lot about the Revolutionary War. You get down to the Southeast, like Franklin, Tennessee, it's a lot about like the Civil War battlefield. So we travel and follow a lot of history and education. Another thing our family really enjoys is, I don't know if it's going to come back anytime soon, but like factory tours. So going to businesses that will let you go in and tour different factories. And I'll also give Joel a little plug. One of my favorite harvest hosts is the oil rig down in Louisiana. Again, we try to follow a lot of history and educational type stuff. And there's actually a harvest host down in Louisiana, maybe an hour and a half south of west of New Orleans, where you can actually go on a working oil rig. And so we try to fill with a lot of educational activities is what we do when we're traveling.
This next question is a little bit of a two-parter. The first part is, how do you handle being confined to a small space with your spouse and or children? And then a follow-up, how do you manage to give yourselves alone time if you find that you need it? Send this to Erin and Travis first.
I think that was one of the biggest challenges, was going from a normal 9-to-5 life, kids in school, to all of a sudden we're confined in this little space and we're together 24/7. That was a huge adjustment in the beginning for us. And
I think together that wasn't hard at all. Being with him all the time was really easy. It was being with the kids all the time. And then you're on the road, so you're traveling, you don't really have family to be like, hey, we need a night out. And so that was a huge adjustment. I think that it was adjustment for them too, to be with us all the time. And it just takes time. I think that's the best. But
after a year of being together like that, when we did settle back into a house and kind of the kids went back in school and everything, then it was the opposite effect. And we were devastated that we weren't together all the time. And we realized how many things we really missed in each other's lives because you're taken away from each other when you live in a regular home, 9-to-5 type life.
Yeah, the kids struggled with it, getting back into school. That was really hard. And they chose to homeschool again because it was just, we all do enjoy being together. So we got used to that. And then as far as alone time, we made sure we visited family and friends while we traveled. So we spent a lot of time in Washington and Oregon, where we have a lot of family, Northern California. And then when you're with other RVers that totally understand that you need like a date night, we're all really good at kind of like being like, hey, we'll watch your kid tonight, like go out, go get dinner. And so you really build that community outside of like where you're from, and you all understand. There's no questions asked. Like, yes, go get dinner, go grocery shopping together, that sort of thing. So you really help each other out in that way.
All right, I'm going to send this over to Dustin next. So first, how do you handle being confined in that small space with your spouse and children? And then how do you carve out that alone time when you find that you need it?
So I would say we don't spend a lot of time inside the rig. I think that's what we really like about it is we don't really feel we're in a confined space. We sleep in a confined space. And if it's raining, we might be in a confined space. But a majority of the time it pushes us outside. So we don't feel like we're confined. So we're usually boondocking somewhere, or we have a whole campground or we're out and about exploring big open national parks. So I would say we don't really feel necessarily confined because we're usually outdoors. As far as alone time, me and my wife, we have a rule where we go out on one date every week, pretty much regardless. We don't necessarily have a penalty if we don't do it, but our general rule is once a week we'll go out. We have a little bit of an advantage because our kids are older, so we can just leave our kids at the campground, and I mean, they're teenagers, so they don't cause too many problems, at least for other people. Sometimes they'll fight between each other, but we don't have to rely on finding babysitters. So if we had younger kids, it'd be a little bit more complicated without babysitting. But we go out on a date maybe once a week, and that actually has been a little bit of a challenge since COVID because we haven't been able to do that. And I would say without that, and since we're used to that, we've had a little bit of challenge now trying to not have that once a week date where we get just me and her time. So that's how we do it.
Okay, we'll finish up with Joel. So keeping those confined spaces, how do you manage that? And how do you find your alone time when you need it?
Well, I think we have it really easy compared to Dustin, Erin, and Travis because we don't have kids yet. And so we like being around each other. Like we've been together for a very long time. And like, we learned that, we're both pretty independent. And so naturally when one person wants to go read or just kind of do their own thing, it's not a problem. Like, I don't think either one of us are very clingy, but I think it kind of goes back to the topic we talked about last time on picking the design of your rig. So we have a fifth wheel, which really provides a nice separation of space. And so if Mary Ashley wants to go like read a book or even watch TV, or do something else, she can go up the little stairs into the bedroom, and I could be down in the main area. And just something about the fifth wheel, and they're two different floors, even though it's just like a few steps, it just feels separate. So that's how we do it. And I'm sure when we have kids, everything will fall apart and we'll have to, be back on here to talk about it again.
All right, well, I'm going to send this next question right to Dustin because you kind of mentioned it in your last answer when the rain hits. So do you have any ideas for rainy day activities inside the RV?
Inside the RV, we'll either do work or school. I'll work on my computer. My wife will work on her computer. The kids will do schoolwork. If it's raining for a long period, like an all day rain, then we might do like a Netflix movie or watch a movie or something like that. But that hasn't really been our experience because we spend a lot of time in the Southwest and we don't run into, if it rains, it usually rains briefly and then it's done. So then it's more of a problem of you're in the mud, and so you're dodging mud more than you're stuck in your rig, I guess.
All right, Joel, how about you? Any rainy day activities that you could recommend?
Yeah, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, we call them mimosa days, and just kind of like look at this is going to be a 3-bottle day, and we're gonna play some games and watch some movies, and that's kind of fun actually. More realistically, if we're in an area that has museums, it's a nice opportunity to go find some indoor stuff to do. And then games again. I mean, we love playing games. So sometimes it's like Dustin said, a lot of times we're in the West, or the Southwest where it doesn't rain all day. Sometimes I love a rainy day because it removes the guilt factor, where if it's a nice day, I feel like I have to be outside. If it's raining, you're like, okay, today we're going to do puzzles, play Scrabble, drink mimosas, and watch Netflix. And that's okay.
Right, Erin and Travis, how about you? What are some rainy day activities that you like to rely on?
We definitely followed the weather when we traveled and tried to stay away from the rain because being inside when we traveled, it was 3 little boys, was definitely rambunctious. We would try to find trampoline parks and places where they could burn their energy.
But so did the rest of the world on those rainy days.
Yeah, so Joel's making me a little jealous of his rainy days.
That sounds nice.
But right now we're more stationary, and we had a lot of rain in California the last few months, and it was a lot of movies, like binging movies, board games, manipulative. So like Play-Doh, we would get Play-Doh out those days. And it was kind of just like anything to keep them busy and entertained. And then with COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go to a movie theater. We weren't going to friends' houses. So it was a big challenge this year, living tiny and rain. So it was a lot of, Netflix, Harry Potter days. So,
and all our boys like to draw, so they would just draw.
Yeah, lots of
mostly.
art,
Yeah.
lots of art and drawing.
Okay, I'm going to send this one to Joel first. Joel, you've been talking about board games and things like that. So did you pick up any hobbies while RVing? Was board games new? Are there any other hobbies that you've picked up along the way? We'll start with you.
Yeah. Finding good 2-player games, since we were a 2-player batch. Or we have friends a lot of times too. So we got into Settlers of Catan, which is a really fun board game. It's pretty simple. It seems complex, really fun game. One random thing I picked up just because I wanted to see if I could do it was juggling. Like I'd always wondered, like, how easy is it to learn to juggle? And it turns out it's like anything. If you just practice it, all of a sudden it'll click. And so I started with 3 balls. Now I can do 4 balls. And I think that's just like, that got me addicted to learning new stuff. So now every month I have some learning goal, whether it's trying to like progress in learning another language. I take a lot of courses on udemy.com. You can go on there and like for like $12, buy a whole like video course on a topic that is interesting to you. So I try to do those like once a month.
All right. Erin and Travis, how about you? Did you pick up any hobbies, you and the family, while you're traveling?
I don't know if we picked up any new ones, but I was able to, when we started traveling, I had gotten into photography for a while. I'd been shooting photography. And so landscape photography became a really like passion-driven thing for me. So I think that's probably one of the things I started doing more and more of, waking up really earlier, staying out really late, photographing, making sure we were in cool spots so that I can, get some rad pictures I'd always dreamt of getting. So I don't know that I picked up any new ones, but I definitely focused more on that one.
I think we started doing geocaching. We didn't like super get into it, but it was one of those things when we were out, the boys like checking to see if there were any in the area, and there always are, and then kind of tracking those down just using our phones. So that was kind of something that we started getting an interest in.
Okay, Dustin, how about you? Any hobbies that you've picked up along the way?
I think everyone in our family kind of picked up. My littlest one is now like this expert Rubik's Cube. Like he just told me last night that he solved a Rubik's Cube, a 3x3, which I thought that was the only Rubik's Cube, but apparently there's a bunch of them. And he did it in 24 seconds. So that's his new best time. So he picked up the Rubik's Cube. My oldest, the one that's almost 18, started mountain biking. So he's big into mountain biking. My daughter's into journaling. And my hobby me and my wife, we really like hiking. And if you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be a hiker, I would have laughed at you. But we really like to hike. So I guess that would kind of be one of our new hobbies.
Okay, at this point in time, I'm just going to send a little reminder to any of our viewers out there that if you have questions, please, you can submit them at any time. If they're relevant to what we're discussing, I'll slide them in. Otherwise, we'll get to them at the end of our pre-submitted questions, which we are getting towards the end. So we'll be getting to your viewer questions very shortly. Keep them coming, and we'll get to as many as possible before we get to the end of our hour together. I'm going to move on to our next pre-submitted question here, and we'll start with Erin and Travis. This is, do you usually plan ahead and schedule the activities that you'll be doing in advance prior to a trip?
In the beginning, when we first started RVing, I've always been a planner, and so I was like, we need to plan, we need to book, we need to schedule, we need to know where we're going and what we're doing. And so the first few months were pretty planned. After that, it just kind of got exhausting because you get to the area and then your plans would completely change. And so we really learned to wing it. And we would get to a new area, settle in, and we'd stay for 4 to 7 days in each spot so that we had time to settle in and really kind of check things out and find what would work best for us and our kids and what they were interested in. And then the weather decides what you're going to do. So we really stopped planning. And then when we headed east, we had no plan. And so for 3.5 months, we traveled with 0 plans. And it was one of the best parts of our trip ever. Mm-hmm. So I recommend not planning unless you know you need to go to a campground. Then obviously make those reservations. But the in-betweens, we just didn't plan anything, and it was fantastic.
All right, Dustin, what are your thoughts on planning ahead? Do you do it? Do you play it by ear? Go for it.
We do not plan anything. We have usually like a big direction, like where we're gonna head. It usually revolves around like the events, the rallies and stuff like that, so we know, okay, in 3 months we have to be here, but all the way up until then, it's not uncommon for us to be driving, and I'll just get sick of driving and tell Nicole, hey, call and find us a spot to stay. And that's where we stop, because we haven't made reservations and we're just heading in a direction that we want to go. So I would agree with Erin that we're not planners. I actually tell a lot of people that to really enjoy full-time traveling, flexibility is key, because if you are very strict on your schedule, you'll get to a spot you really like and you want to extend, but you can't because you got this next reservation that you can't cancel. So I think flexibility is huge. Although I do have friends that could probably tell you exactly where they're camping on September 5th of 2021, like right now. So I do know people that are very strict on their schedule, but I personally do not.
All right, let's see if we can go 3 for 3 here, or if Joel's going to change it up. How about you, Joel?
I don't like over planning either. I think that's the beauty of RVing, right? And that's what attracts a lot of people to it, is that like freedom and flexibility. A lot of times we'll do, like Dustin was saying, and have like a flagship event that we're trying to get to. Like we love going to events like the Hot Air Balloon Festival, Formula One race, NASCAR race, like whatever it is. So we know we have to be somewhere at a certain time. I will then use a mapping tool, and I tend to use Good Sam Club's exclusive trip planner, they call it, to then try to like break it out to make sure we only have, 4 to 5 hour travel days. I just don't like driving more than that in a day. And so I'll map that out. I'll see where that takes us, get an idea of the campgrounds we might stay at. I use a whiteboard to do this. But I only book like the next night. That way, if I get somewhere and I love it, we'll stay longer. We'll make the next day a longer travel day. Or we completely change plans. So we always have flexibility, but with an idea of where we're going. And then when we get somewhere, I love the app Road Trippers, just to see what kind of cool stuff's around. And so we've been in these like random little towns that just happen to be on the route, but then I'll use Road Trippers to find like really neat, like scenic photography spots or museums to check out. And the last thing I'll say, there's a game I've always wanted to play. People call it like left, right, but where you really are just randomly, like you're driving and you'll get somewhere like to an intersection and you can go left to Reno and right to like whatever, like Texas, and you flip a coin. I've never gone that unplanned. I think that would be kind of fun. So I want to try that this year, maybe.
That particular game is actually on my bucket list as well, to take a trip with that flip a coin left or right.
Yeah.
This is a really relevant question, kind of to what we're doing right now. So we all have an internet connection that's allowing us to participate in this panel. So this question is, how do you stay connected to the internet while you're on the road? Dustin, I'm going to send it to you first.
So for us, we carry both AT&T and Verizon. Verizon is our primary. Both me and my wife have AT&T smartphone and a Verizon smartphone. So all 4 of those have 30 gigabytes of hotspot. So we'll use our hotspot a lot, giving us each 60, and then our kids have their own phones and their own internet. We use a jetpack for the kids, which is on an old Verizon unlimited plan, and that's mostly what our kids use to do their school. So we use pretty much exclusively, even if we're at a campground that has good Wi-Fi, we almost never use it. We just use our hotspot on our phones or the one jetpack that we have. And we're not big streamers, so we don't watch a lot of movies and that kind of stuff. My kids play games. Otherwise, me and my wife, we mostly just web browsing, email, work, podcasts, that kind of stuff.
All right, Joel, how about you? What's your internet situation?
I think it's comical that you can go to a large hotel and the internet always works, even if there's like 1,000 rooms in the hotel and everyone's using it. You can go to a campground with 20 spots, the internet never works. So like, you got to have your own cell plan of some sort. We use AT&T. We use the hotspot. Like Dustin was saying, now you get like 30 gigs included as a hotspot, and that doesn't even include just using your phone. And then AT&T, and I think Verizon does it, but they let you stream certain like shows and movies or channels like HBO for free, and it doesn't apply to data. So we have a little connector from the iPhone to HDMI. So we connect it to the television and we'll stream stuff on HBO and it doesn't take bandwidth. But cell coverage in the US is pretty good now. We have a WeBoost Sleek that we use just to boost the cell signal. And it really does. Like I've tested it. They claim it has a 32x boost. I have actually run the numbers and seen a pretty close boost to that. So get some sort of cell booster. And yeah, we rely on the cell phone.
Okay, Erin and Travis, how do you stay connected to the internet?
So when we traveled full time, that was in 2017, and we are not techie at all, like zero, like negative. And so we had a cousin that told us to go through Unlimited Bill, and we did that, and we got a plan through Unlimited Bill. I don't know if they're still around and they still do that. We probably paid way too much for internet while traveling, but we were wedding photographers and we really needed it to be able to upload. And now we just have a plan through our cell phone company that's just a little hotspot that we use. And because we're more stationary, we have internet where we are also. So.
Okay, well, we have a couple questions that have come in for specific panelists, so I'm going to interject them here. Anton has a question for Erin and Travis. Anton's looking for any activities for toddlers age 1.5 to 4 when RVing, whether it's indoor or outdoor.
So when we were full-time traveling on the road, our youngest was 3, and he really ran with the big boys. So I didn't really have to feel like I needed like toddler activities. Like he was riding a bike at 2 and he was just like off. Now that we have a toddler and we're stationary, I needed a spot for him outside that was safe. So my dad came and did some turf and a little white fence around his space, and he's got a safe play space to be in. I feel like if we travel, I would take a like collapsible baby gate, because we do spend most of our time outside. And so a large baby gate that he could actually have his own play area outside to be in that was safe would kind of be, you know, a tip that I have. He's got a little cabinet in our RV that's really low that he can open himself, and it has all of his toys in it. So him having access to that in a small space is really important too.
Okay, and our next directed question is for Joel. Elaine has a question about your cats. So what do you do about your cat litter box while traveling, and where is the best place to put it?
Yes. I was concerned about having cats in a small space. My wife informed me that without the cat, she would not be there with me. So what we did was put the litter box in the bathroom, which is, in our bathroom's hardwood. It's not carpeted, right? So it's easy to vacuum and clean because the litter does get all over the floor, which is annoying, but it's very easy to clean. And we will pretty much replace the litter daily. If not daily, at least every other day, and just toss the whole thing in a trash bag. So it never smells. We'll keep the vent open in the bathroom to help with circulation. And yeah, just make sure you clean it regularly. And I like putting it into a confined space like the bathroom so you can keep it clean.
All right, let's get back to some pre-submitted questions now. And we'll start with Dustin for this first one. What advice do you have for successful RV cooking? What meals do you like to prepare in your RV kitchen?
Oh boy. So I'm a drive-through guy, but my wife is actually a really good cook. So she is very creative, and I think she gets a lot of her sources from Pinterest. Like she'll get an idea, but I know the Instant Pot is a big hit. Like she uses that a lot. We have pretty much, the problem in an RV is your oven is not very good. So she doesn't do a ton of oven cooking, but we do have one nice like copper pot that she'll make almost everything in that's not Instant Pot. I do a fair amount of the grilling. So I guess between those combinations, my wife is usually the one that decides what to cook, and it's usually either on the stove or on the Instant Pot. And I do most of the grilling. So I'm probably not the best source on the cooking thing.
A little division of labor. How about you, Joel? What do you have for cooking tips?
Well, I'm impressed. So we travel all over the country, and it can be hard to eat healthy foods in some parts of the country. And so we cook a lot. I love that Walmart, no matter where you find them, they always have organic produce. And so we're always able to find good inputs for our foods. And then we just use a lot of recipe websites. So we're constantly looking up RV recipes. We also really like, because we're both pescatarian, we love like Cookie and Kate and some other vegetarian recipe sites. And we'll look for things that are conducive to an RV. Like Dustin said, the oven's not an awesome option, but we've got, burners for the stove. And so stovetop cooking, amazing. Microwave, amazing. Grill, amazing. So yeah, we just look for stuff that's kind of unique. My favorite and my go-to are tacos. We just love tacos. Anything in a tortilla is amazing. So we do a lot of it. If I'm in charge, that's what we're eating.
All right. How about you, Erin and Travis? What kind of your favorite cooking tips can you share?
Don't worry.
So I would agree with Dustin and say the Instant Pot is your best friend when you're living in an RV. You can throw everything inside of it, and it doesn't heat up the RV a lot, which is really nice because when you're living small and you cook, it gets warm really fast. And then, yeah, I agree with Joel too, tacos. We probably have tacos 2 or 3 times a week. It's the one thing that like our kids love to eat and that we enjoy. And so everybody's happy if it's like burritos, tacos, taco bowls. Those are always a good go-to. And then the grill, cooking outside is always a plus because there's more space and you can throw anything on a barbecue. So yeah.
All right, we're going to do a follow-up with a question from Jen here, and we're just going to go right backwards. So Erin and Travis, to add on to this, are there any kitchen accessories that you could go without? She's looking to go full-time and get rid of a lot of kitchen appliances.
You need 1 pot, 1 pan, because you can't use more than that at the same time. And so limiting those things that you can go without. There's a lot. I think that when we first moved into our RV, I brought a lot of kitchen things. And then when we came back from traveling, I got rid of like so much of it that I never touched. You really find those few things that you use. And if you don't have something that you need, you figure out how to make it work. So everybody's different in the kitchen. Everybody uses something different. Just limit your utensils, your spoons, your mixing things. You don't need a ton of it all. Yeah, that's kind of.
All right, back to Joel. What would you recommend getting rid of accessory-wise?
I think we were the same way when we started. We way over loaded up on pots and pans, and not only does it take up a lot of space, but they're heavy, and so we end up breaking a bunch of shelves because when you're bouncing around, those things just break right through the bottom of those little wooden drawers. So you need 1 pot and 1 pan. It's just like Erin was saying. So we've got that locked in. And then another nice space saver, an expandable strainer that kind of like you can pull out the sides and make it fit over your sink, both for straining like pastas and stuff, but also as a drying rack. So then when we finish up and clean everything, we put all the pots, pans, dishes in that strainer to let it dry. So it becomes a very nice like 2-in-1. And then you're using your sink space as your drying space, which opens up the counters a lot.
All right, how about you, Dustin? What are you finding you can get rid of in the kitchen you don't need?
So I feel like we brought, I think everybody makes that mistake. So we brought more stuff when we originally left as well. But I think for us, downsizing a lot of the different things that you might have. So instead of having your big coffee maker, have like a little 1-cup coffee maker, or like even a 4-cup versus the big one. So just downsizing. And I think that's part of the appeal of the Instant Pot is, I know my wife has made all kinds of different things, from like hard-boiled eggs to soups to like, I think that one piece of equipment can do all kinds of different meals. So anything that can do multiple things, like that might be the one that you want to prioritize towards. I guess that's my opinion, and I'm not probably the best person to ask that question.
All right, well, we'll move away from the kitchen on our next question, and we'll start with Dustin on this one too. Do you meet other people while traveling, and how do you stay connected with your friends and family? So Dustin, take it away.
Absolutely. I mean, that was probably our biggest surprise. When we originally left, we didn't plan on being full-time. Like we planned on one big iconic 8-month road trip. And we didn't realize that there were so many people out there, let alone entire families, that were doing the exact same thing. We thought we were weird because we already homeschooled our kids, and we were able to work remotely, and we didn't realize until halfway through that trip how many people were out there. So yes, we've met a lot of people on the road. I have far more close friends now than when I just lived in the same city for 10 years. So yes, you meet a lot of people. And the nice thing is, as a group, you have any tool, or if you're parked right next to a group of RVers, you're going to have access to all of their knowledge too. So if something breaks, you end up working together and getting that fixed, and somebody next to you has what you need. So we do a lot of meeting with other people.
Okay, Erin and Travis, how about you? Do you meet other people while you're traveling, and how do you stay connected with your friends and family?
I think we did not go into this with the intention of meeting people. We, like Dustin, wanted to travel for a year. And then we hit the road and realized that there was this entire community of people doing the same thing. And the best part about it is that you don't have to explain yourself to them. When you meet somebody not RVing full-time, you have to tell them why you're doing it and what it's like, and they have all these questions. Whereas when you meet another full-time RVer, there's no explanation. There's an instant connection where you just get each other, and then you can really actually like get to know each other. And we have met friends on the road that are lifelong. Our kids stay connected with them. They visit us. We make sure we meet up on the road, and it has been the best part about RVing are the families and the connections that we've made. And then as far as staying connected to our family at home, our parents both have RVs, and so there's several times they would meet up with us on the road, and then they would understand why we were doing this lifestyle, because they may not have understood in the beginning. And so then they dive in and they get it. And so I think that we really traveled to visit family. And so that ended up being a big part of our travels, was getting to see an aunt in Mississippi that I never would have visited otherwise. And so that becomes a big part of it as well.
And the way you stay connected is Instagram. I mean, Instagram keeps us connected with everyone we love. We communicate daily with these people, with all of them. We all know what's going on in each other's lives. You know, we communicate through Instagram. So that's really it.
All right, Joel, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what everyone said. It's really interesting. You can live in a regular neighborhood, in a sticks and bricks house. You could have absolutely nothing in common with your neighbors other than geographic location. But when you meet other RVers on the road, there's so many you just have so much in common, right? You've traveled to similar places, you have similar interests. So you immediately hit it off in a way that you might not with a traditional neighbor. So we've made really great friends on the road. There are amazing groups like Full-Time Families, escapees, escapers. Like there are groups that bring people together. And then for visiting family, yeah, I think the RV is actually more conducive. Like Erin was saying, and Travis, like we visit extended family members more often after having an RV than we ever did before. Because like I've got an aunt and uncle in Ohio. So if we're passing through Cincinnati, we'll make sure we stop and visit them. We have some in Alabama, same situation, where we never would have flown necessarily to go see them, but now we see them in person because it's like we can work it into the trip because RVing is flexible.
All right, we're going to start in on some viewer questions here. There's just a few pre-submitted questions that are left, but they kind of overlap some topics we've already covered. If we have time at the end, I will get back to those, but we're going to dig into our viewer questions now and start with Grant. Grant asks, at what point do you think it's time to sell your RV? Ours is rather old. It's been great. Everything still works, but I can tell it's going to need some major attention soon. Any thoughts? I'll start with Erin and Travis.
Well, if you're asking us, I would say hold on to it and take care of those things. I also hear that as like, man, you're kind of just going to pass on your RV's problems to the next family. So that's kind of, I wouldn't be fun if you were someone that was purchasing on that end. If you know something's about to go wrong, I would take care of it. And if it's been a great RV and continues to work and isn't giving you problems, you're either going to put money in buying a new one, or you can hold on to it and put that money back into it and make it something really special for yourself. So to me, I would hold on to it.
All right, Dustin, anything to add?
For us, it's more about the floor plan. So if we were ever to get rid of it, it'd be because we found something that maybe is going to be better suited for what we need to use it floor plan wise. Otherwise, we've never really gotten to that point with an RV.
Joel, how about you?
Yeah, we've only had 2 RVs in the last 6 years, and I crashed the first one, and it was a total. And insurance gave me a check to get towards a new one. So I don't know. But I mean, it's a hard question because, we were 5 years into our last 5th wheel, and it was still perfectly fine. And I was like, it's still perfectly fine. But my wife was like, no, it's time for a new one. Like we knew some amenities we wanted to upgrade, and like we wanted a little bigger of a unit, but I had a hard time letting go of a perfectly good unit. So the key is to get into a crash.
Just wreck
it. Okay, let's move on to a question here from Bev. Bev asks, should your generator run the AC and your fridge while you're traveling down the highway? I have a Class A Fleetwood Flare 1998 25 foot. What do you think? Dustin, do you want to start us off on this one?
So I've never had a drivable. So I've never run a generator while I was driving down the road. I have on my old RV run propane to run my refrigerator while driving down the road. And I know that's a big hot button topic as well. So I also know people that do run their generator while they drive in drivables to run their AC, but I don't know the official answer. So I'm probably the wrong guy there.
Joel, do you want to take a swing at this one?
We run our propane in our fridge while we're driving to keep the food cold. I have friends who have now put in lithium batteries and inverters that can actually run the fridge off the batteries, which is pretty cool. And so we're trying to install that system now so that we can get away from propane on the road. But for now, it's propane.
Okay. And how about you, Erin and Travis? What are your thoughts?
We're kind of the same. We haven't been in a motorhome, so I wouldn't know if they recommend running your generator while your motor's going. To me, that's a lot of power running into all of those lines. So I would maybe be a little nervous of that. I don't know, Dustin, wouldn't you think that's just like you're overdoing all the power? I would think.
Well, you got to remember the generator's creating power. So I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing if your generator and your motor, they're probably the same fuel. So you're going to go through fuel a lot faster. If you have a diesel, you probably have a diesel generator. If you have gas, probably a gas generator. As far as driving down the road, it can't be that much different than the engine. So I don't know that it'd be unsafe. And I know people that have done it, but I don't know if people encourage you to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not really sure on that question.
Right. So
call the manufacturer.
Consensus is not sure. Let's move on to this next question. It comes in from a guest. looking for any tips for downsizing clothing, equipment, supplies, etc. So we talked a little bit specifically about the kitchen earlier, but in general, downsizing tips that you might have. We'll start with Erin and Travis for this one.
I think really just know what you use regularly. If you have 10 hoodies and you only wear 2 of them, there's no point in keeping all 10. I am not like a minimalist, but living this life, it forces you to be. And so you really just make those decisions on what you use regularly and what you don't, and really just be honest with yourself. And even if you love it, like, and you never wear it, then there's no point in keeping it. We did keep a storage container back at home. So we took, 10 board games for the kids to use and go through. And when we came back home, we would put those 10 in storage and get another, few out. We are really big with books. So we regularly swap out books in the RV for the kids. But I recommend that KonMari tidying up. That was like big 5 or 10 years ago. That book will really guide you through downsizing and getting rid of things. And I did that when that book was big. And so when we went into RVing, we really didn't have a ton already. And so it's just really, you got to get rid of stuff. Just do it.
Yeah, I really found that once we got into the RV, I only had the clothes that I like to wear. So then anything you grab to put on, you already liked it. So I thought that was a really cool thing. You weren't going through your closet, picking all the shirts you don't want to wear that day. You only have the ones you do want to wear. So that was a big help.
Absolutely. Okay, Joel, how about you? Downsizing tips.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you tend to fill whatever space you have. And so our house, my closet was always full of so many shirts and shoes and pants and stuff that I rarely ever used, but I filled the space up, right? And then we got into an RV and I could only bring a couple outfits, and I realized it was totally fine, right? Like, it's just like you make do with what you have. Like Travis said, I have a few outfits I love, a few shirts I love. I would wear them every single day if I could. The nice thing on the road, I do this math. I'm like, okay, I might see the same people 3 days in a row. There, you only need 3 outfits, right? And then I'll just reuse them over and over again, and no one will ever be the wiser. Just minimize the photos you take. And then I tell my wife she looks good in everything, and so she only needs 1 or 2 things, and she still takes most of the closet space.
All right, Dustin, you're going to finish us off with this one. Minimalizing tips.
For us, it's for me personally, it's not that difficult to do, except for when you talk about my tools. Like, my tools are the only thing I really care about having more than I probably need. But I guess my general rule is, if you're not using it on a regular basis, like if you haven't used something in a month, you probably don't need it. We had a big challenge over Christmas, and my wife found the perfect Christmas tree for our 5th wheel, and I was totally fine with it. But when Christmas was over, I wanted to get rid of it, give it to Goodwill, give it away, do something. She's like, no, I got so many compliments. Everyone loves my tree. So we ended up hauling a tree around for 5 months until we got back to Minnesota, so we could put it in storage. And now we won't have it next Christmas anyways. So it's also a negotiation between husband and wife, I guess, is kind of my point. But I would say, if you're not going to use something on a regular basis, maybe weekly or every other week, you probably don't need it.
Okay, this next question is kid specific. So I'm going to send it to Erin and Travis first. A guest is asking, is it hard for your kids not having that daily connection with their friends? So Erin and Travis, you've got some young kids, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think this was our family's biggest concern, not understanding how our kids would stay connected with friends. Especially, I think that question comes more so when you homeschool your kids. They're like, how are they going to connect with other kids? When we traveled, you meet families, just like with full-time families. That's the point of it, is that you connect with these families that have kids that your kids connect to. Our kids chat with friends that we met on the road regularly, and those have become their really good connections and really good friends. Now that we're more stationary, but still traveling in between. Our kids play sports. They're very active. And so they make connections and friends in sporting activities. With homeschooling, we'll do activities through the homeschool program where they connect with other kids. And now that everything's been online and like sports were canceled, everything was canceled. I think everybody's trying to figure this out. And so Zoom classes, outschool classes, online classes, FaceTiming, there's so many. I think we're all finding ways to try to connect. And so now that everybody's doing it, that's how our kids have always done it.
Plus, there's 4 of them, so they just play together all the
Yeah,
time.
you have brothers. Go play with your brothers.
Built-in play group.
Yes.
All right, Dustin, you said you have older kids. So the same question to you. How do your kids manage that?
So I think we actually have the opposite problem. Like I think our kids have too much time with their friends. Because they communicate. We're usually with another family or a couple other families in a group. So they have that live interaction. If they're not with them, they are talking. So I feel most of our conversations are with our kids when that they've had too much or they've been staying up too late, waking up too early, and they're crabby and fussy. So I would say that we typically will tell our kids like, hey, you need a break today, more than we're like, hey, how are you going to reach out to some of your friends? So I think we actually have the opposite problem, which we didn't expect. We were a little worried about that when we launched, that our kids were taking them from all their friends in Minnesota and traveling around the country, but we never really ran into that. They met new friends, and my oldest one, he typically will hang out with the adults, and the other 2, if need be, will hang out together. So we've never had that problem.
All right, we have arrived at our very final question, and it's a good one here that we're going to send off this panel discussion this week with. So the summer is pretty much here. Any trips or plans that you are looking forward to or dreaming of, especially once more travel is available? Fingers crossed. What are you dreaming of? What are those plans that you're looking forward to? We'll start with Joel.
Ooh, man, I want to get back to events. Like I was really excited this year to go to the Oshkosh Air Show, which we've never been to before. It was canceled this year, so I'm excited for that next year. I'm excited to get to New England in the fall. So by then we can definitely do that, but I just love New England fall foliage. So, might probably taking a trip up to Maine in the fall. I think that's what I'm most excited about right now.
All right. How about you, Erin and Travis?
We actually don't have anything planned other than months and months ago, we had booked a house with 4 friends from like middle school and all their kids. And it was kind of on the fence about whether it was going to happen or not. And I think we're all going to go and kind of contain there. I'm excited because it's a house and spreading out, and our kids just playing and swimming and living in an RV, getting the ability to, take a break from it for a few days is such a huge vacation. And so I think that'll feel good to just let the kids spread out. And so that's all we're doing. We don't have any road trips or anything planned, unfortunately. And I think COVID has really kind of stopped a lot of plans, but I think it's also encouraging RV travel. So I think that hopefully there's a lot of people getting out there and traveling.
All right, Dustin, to you. What have you got going on this summer, hopefully?
We actually had an awesome summer plan starting at Talladega that got canceled. And then we were going to also see Escapade. We were planning on that Oshkosh Air Show as well. So our next thing that we have now, since everything has been canceled, is hopefully the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is the next big event that we have. So we've started planning for next summer. And next summer, our plan is to go northeastern Canada, like Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. And so this summer, we're going to probably buy a vacation home, like an Airbnb that we'll rent out and use that instead of doing all the cool trips that we had planned that got canceled.
All right, well, fingers crossed that some fun times can happen in the summer. And with that final question, that is the end of our hour of our third panel session. There is one remaining next week. It's Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time. So it is time to thank our panelists. Thank you, Erin and Travis. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Joel, for spending time with us today. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind you once again about that free activity sheet bundle. It includes the RV cookbook, camping meal planning sheets, coloring pages, crossword puzzles, an RV camping guide, and tips for your RV. To download that activity bundle, you'll just click the banner underneath the video player or the link in your description. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you so much to all of you viewing this panel discussion. Go back and watch the previous ones, and make sure to join us next Friday at 12 p.m. Central for our very final panel. We hope to see you there. My name is Leah, and on behalf of our panelists, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.